Welcome to Live Life. My name is Christian Samuelson. I'll be your host this evening with my co-host Mike Postpack.
Hey, what's
Uh,
going on, everybody? Good to see you. Or, yeah, see you and hear you.
Tonight we have a very interesting show for you tonight, and it came about in a very roundabout way, which we'll get to a little bit later. It is a problem that we've all had, and that is putting a microphone out in an audience, for a Q&A session. It's usually a line forms down the center of an aisle in a live situation, and people line up behind that microphone and ask their questions. Or somebody wanders around through the crowd with a wireless mic and hands it out to people who raise their hands for the Q&A at the end of some large convention or conference or whatever. But someone by the name of Tim Albright from crowdmics.com has come up with a very interesting solution. So I'm going to turn it over briefly to Tim to let us all know what CrowdMics is and what it's all about.
Well, thank you. This is just awesome to be on the show. I'm a fan, and it's just cool to chat. So thanks. Yeah, CrowdMics is just that simple. CrowdMics is an app that lets everyone use their phone as the microphone. So literally, people in the audience can talk into their phone, and it comes out of the sound system.
So what's the quality like on that?
Are we on an AV show, I wonder?
Yes,
It's funny because you talk to different groups and they ask different questions. Meeting planners, well, how can you get it downloaded? AV guys, what's it sound like, right? The reality is what we're doing is essentially we're pulling the audio off the device, pushing it over the local Wi-Fi network, and it's being received by another mobile device like an iPad or something like that, which is just plugged into the sound system through the headphone jack. So we're sharing audio peer-to-peer, and that audio is controlled by that iPad, who speaks, and it comes out of the sound system. So you would think, okay, wait, this is coming through a phone. Is it cell phone quality? Are we talking Google Hangout quality? The reality is these devices, especially the ones that are, the last couple of years, the microphones are surprisingly high fidelity. They really do a good job. The frequency response is well outside of just a human vocal range. I mean, it's certainly they do great, and we're able to capture a good portion of that. Now, is this a $1,000 Sennheiser mic? No, it's not. Right? We're not even trying to be that. But what we have found is that AV guys specifically are pleasantly surprised that it actually sounds a lot better than just your cell phone call or Skype call. In fact, it's much higher than Skype quality. It's a really solid mic, and we make it, we push it through pretty efficiently enough. There is definitely some compression, but it's very almost lossless compression. So it sounds pretty good.
Now, Tim, I went to your website today. I spent a lot of time on there, and there's, a few videos that show how the system works, how it all goes together. There weren't a lot, and it seemed fairly comprehensive. Can it really be that simple?
It is. It can be, and it really is. I mean, what I said at the beginning is pretty much it. You have the audience download the app for free. The presenter has the same app. They're just kind of in the presenter functions. They log in and they are able to open up the presenter features. Presenter plugs into the sound system. The only other factor that really needs to come into play is that everyone does need to connect to the same Wi-Fi network. So CrowdMics runs over the local Wi-Fi. It doesn't run over third-party servers, kind of like we're doing with Google Hangout right now, where my voice and video is going through a server. It all stays on the local network, and so the setup is actually really simple. The questions that we get are actually, in practice, the concerns are less about, AV setup. It's more about just getting the audience to jump in, download it, and engage with it and use it. Now, because we are dealing with Wi-Fi, there certainly is some thought that has to go to that. I mean, it doesn't run on every Wi-Fi all the time yet. That's our goal, is to make it work everywhere every time. And so you do have to kind of take care and make sure you have a decent Wi-Fi network. Again, internet pipe doesn't have to be huge, but it does, the routers in the room, the APs in the room have to be able to handle the number of connections in the room. And so if we ever do see performance lags, it's just because, you know, you're running on an insufficient network. But in the case where we take care of the Wi-Fi, it's just that simple. I mean, we've had people start up and use Crowd Mics literally from not having it installed to using it as a presenter within about 2-3 minutes.
Okay, so that leads me to another question. Say I'm a production company and I have a client who wants to use Crowd Mics for their show. Would it be a good idea for me to set up my own private network for them to use and then plug into the local internet that I have in the room?
Yes, that is a good idea. You know, a lot of the events that we've been doing recently are, you know, like you said, you have a client probably in some type of a hotel ballroom, some type of venue like that, where you're just not quite sure on the Wi-Fi, or the Wi-Fi is ridiculously expensive, whatever the case may be. In the case where you as a production company can bring in, you know, a couple access points and set up a network that can handle, you know, 100, 200, 300 people all day long, we recommend that because you just have more control. In the future, Crowd Mics, you know, we're hoping within the next 6 months or so, will not actually even need the Wi-Fi network. We're working on some crazy ninja stuff we'll get into another day. But for now, if you can do that as a production company, you're going to be in great shape. Okay,
so via Wi-Fi, does it have to be through a network, or can it just be peer-to-peer using the network, using the Wi-Fi signal itself?
So that's what it's doing. It is going through a centralized network, meaning you do have to have some kind of, you know, Wi-Fi hub, access points, network set up in the room. The future is just straight actual peer-to-peer using the Wi-Fi radios, kind of like how you could do with Bluetooth. We're hoping to work. We are working on that right now. We're hoping to have that something to play with soon. For now, you do need to have a network in the room, but keep in mind that network can be your standalone network. It does not have to be plugged into the internet. So you could just literally, what we do sometimes is we'll just bring in 2 or 3 access points, you know, all network together, throw them up, and you're off and running without any issue.
That's perfect.
Hey Tim, you know,
you have
this
to make sure
really
you can handle the number of connections, though. You know, so some people say, oh, I'll throw an AP in the back of the room. That's what I use for my lighting, or that's what I use for my other systems. Nah, I mean, you do need to. If you got 100 people in the room, you're not going to be able to go to Best Buy and grab an off-the-shelf router. You do need to have, a more enterprise level. It doesn't need to be crazy, but it does need to be enterprise level.
Right.
Hey Tim, you know, this is really can be some great groundbreaking stuff here. Tell me a little bit about yourself. How did this get started? What made you come up with this idea? You know, tell me about you and your partners and the like.
Yeah, so I mean, my co-founder is my brother, and we were sitting in a meeting. We know exactly the date, January 6, 2013. We were sitting in a room together, about 120 people, very interactive session, and the presenter would ask questions and people all over making comments, no mics, no nothing, and you just couldn't hear. You couldn't hear what people were saying. I mean, this is a problem that you find in just about any meeting over about 50 people, right? Whether it's an internal corporate meeting, it's a conference, it's church, it's a school. And so my brother, he got distracted, so he pulls out his phone, checking his email. I don't know what he's doing. He's kind of bent over like this, and then all of a sudden we're sitting side by side. He shoots up. He's like, Tim, dude, I could FaceTime somebody, or I could Skype somebody across the planet and have no problem seeing and hearing them using this device, but I can't hear the guy in the back of the room who I can see. I mean, is there not a way I could just use this as a microphone? And instantly I'm like, dude, that's brilliant, but it must be done. I mean, that in the world of a billion apps, it's got to be done. So we went out and tried to find that app for months. I mean, months and months. And it just didn't exist. Now, it should have been red flag. It should have been red flag when we couldn't find it. It should have been like, hey guys, there's probably a good reason why really good developers and good business guys have not built this. Well, we're dumb entrepreneurs, right? So we just say, let's just do this thing. Let's build it. So we put together a version and found out really quickly that the market and just humans in general are very sensitive to latency, right? To delay. From the time that audio comes out of my mouth to over the sound system has got to be really quick. You know, we're talking right now with Google Hangouts, and there's inherently at least a half-second delay, 500 milliseconds of latency, but it's not a big deal because you guys are in different parts of the country, not a problem. But as soon as I have that same system, but I'm hearing my own voice in the same room, you know, you catch up, you choke up, there's echo, there's feedback, it's just not going to work. And so we actually launched with a product that had a pretty good amount of latency. It was kind of sketchy. It was like up to a half second, right? And so we're trying to run events, and we're finding out really quickly why crowd mics didn't exist up until now. Plus hardware just wasn't quite there. You know, devices just couldn't push the audio quick. So we went back to the drawing board in about October of last year and said, look, we got to get this audio under control. I mean, can it be done? And we did. I mean, we came back with a product that in a good case scenario, we can push audio really fast. I mean, the numbers go up and down, obviously, you know, how many milliseconds, I mean, you know, that could be argued, but the reality is 99% of people stand up and talk into crowd mics, and they can be heard, they can talk no problem. And that was the breakthrough for us. That's how we knew that we had something that really could make a difference in really any live event.
Tell us actually how you developed the app. Do one of you have a programming background? Or did you find a programmer? You got a buddy who's a programmer?
No, you know, I wish any of those were true. None of them are. Neither of us are coders. I mean, I've played with some code. I'm kind of a tech nerd, but I'm not writing apps, right? So we actually had the first version of CrowdMics built by a third-party company that we contracted with. We just kind of bid them out. And here, look at I'm a father of 5 kids. Sean's got 2 kids with 2 on the way. We're just like straight up simple guys, right? With dads with big families, just doing our thing. And you know, and I had some AV background. I you know, for 10 years was a DJ, and I did little corporate gigs and school stuff. Anyway, so I knew my way around a mixing board, but none of us could code. So we got that group coding, got them working while we're doing the business stuff. But we're bootstrap entrepreneurs, so we're like selling cars, and Sean's wife is working. It's like, do what you got to do. And so finally, you know, we got some friends and family involved and for funding and such. You know, quit our jobs. I mean, the whole crazy thing. And just last month, we started and kind of locked down the first bit of a seed round of investment. So we're now funded, and we're really getting this thing off the ground. And as part of that funding, we hired our own team. So now we have our developers in-house, which is awesome, man. It's amazing. They're just kicking through, making all sorts of improvements. You know, it's kind of funny, the timing with this, guys, because, you know, you said you're piling through the website. As early as tomorrow or the next day, we've got a revamped website, and we have a new release of CrowdMics coming out in just a few weeks. So things are moving over here.
It actually looks really good right now.
I appreciate that. Not according to me, but it'll be even better, hopefully. A little clearer.
Now, have venture capitalists caught wind of this and gotten a hold of you and tried to lowball you for your app?
Right. Exactly right. Well, that's been fun. I mean, it's been crazy. You know, we launched this at Launch Festival, it's like a TechCrunch Disrupt. It's actually the largest entrepreneur conference last February, so almost a year now. And the whole audience is made up of entrepreneurs, VCs, angel investors, and so yeah, we've definitely had interest. We're currently working with we have some awesome investors. We'll keep fundraising, something that just always happens. So it's something that we always have in the back of our mind. But we have some awesome investors now that are really helping out, and it's just been kind of a whirlwind. It's been awesome.
So 10 years from now, the video that we're doing right now, people are going to want to buy that for like millions of dollars because it's like when we knew you when, right?
No. No.
Hey,
look.
Tell me a little bit about the, we're talking about the latency here. I imagine that's a big issue. Does your internet connection or whatever you're looking through, I mean, I would imagine that plays a big role in that? I mean, can it like be great one day and terrible the next day, kind of thing?
The internet connection fortunately has no bearing for us. So because CrowdMics doesn't run through
right. Well,
the internet, but the network itself.
The network. Yeah.
It does make a difference right now. So if you have a network that just simply can't handle the number of connections, it can't handle the throughput, then that's the number one thing that suffers is the latency of the microphone. See, keep in mind that CrowdMics, besides being really the first software microphone for a live event, it also has text commenting, which actually is a really popular feature. Not everybody is like me, Mr. Jump on a mic at any time. People are, in fact, they say that the number one fear of the average American is public speaking. Number two is death. Number two. I mean, so it's like, if you're in a funeral, people would rather be in the casket than giving the life story, right? So, so the text commenting is very popular. The polling is popular. Those aren't really affected by the latency issues and the network issues. The microphone, the audio is. And so what we have to do is we have to build really smart algorithms that are adjusting the audio stream on the fly in the moment to make sure that we can deliver good audio all the time. And that's going to be a constant battle for us. We're getting better at it all the time. This next release is going to take a nice leap forward with that technology. That's like our secret sauce, right? That's our proprietary stuff, is a really smart, algorithms that make sure that the audio comes out really fast. Because as you guys know, right, you get some latency in there. You start throwing down a third of a second, a quarter second delay in the loop, and now it's going to want to loop on itself. It's going to want to feedback, and now the AV guy is really having to fight it back there and doing his best. We're building in some some echo cancellation. And here's what's exciting, guys. This is a software mic, right? We can do anything, right? We can build in echo cancellation. We can build in some frequency controls and whatnot. We can really do a lot of cool things to make this really the best mic. I'm not saying the best mic meaning like this is the highest quality mic for every case. No, it's the best mic because it just came out of your pocket, right? It's just like the best camera that you have is the one that you have in your pocket. Same concept, right? The best mic you have is the one that your attendees have in their pocket. They use it for conferences. They use it when they're in the boardroom doing a conference call with New York, where nobody can hear because there's one mic in the room. Just use your mic in your pocket. They use it at concerts, sporting events. The referees at a high school football game are using it because they can't afford a nice referee mic system, so they just use their phone with a Bluetooth headset and they're jamming. I mean, we really believe that this is the mic of the people. That's what we're building. That's what this is all about.
Well, let me ask you something, Tim. Have you thought about, have kicked around the idea of building a hardware piece for the permanent installer, or a conference center that's got the app built into it? It's got a video output to go to the video system. It's got its own DSP algorithms and a built-in Wi-Fi network, so you connect to just a one rack unit device, and then it would live in the rack, in the boardroom, in the touring kit.
It would live in the rack just like every other wireless mic you have and everything else. Absolutely. We not only we've thought of that, we've kind of gone down the road to some degree. For a startup, probably the hardest thing to do is hardware, just because of the expense, right? I mean, building hardware is obviously really expensive. So that's why we purposely opted for not only software but mobile-based software. In the short term, the next iteration is going to be for us to take the same software and put it onto PCs and laptops, because 99% of the time, your guy has at least a machine or two plugged in back there, and so that would be an obvious use case. And then probably the third step would be, hey, let's just do permanent install, right? Let's make this room CrowdMics enabled. Let's make this your rack CrowdMics enabled. And essentially, what you end up having is a receiver for a Wi-Fi microphone. At the end of the day, as you guys know, it's all radio, right? It's all radio frequency. It's all the same radio, just different levels. We just want to be the receiver for the Wi-Fi mic. And Wi-Fi may not even be the end game. It may be Bluetooth LE. It may be Bluetooth 4.0. It may be a combination of it all.
So let's talk a little bit about the live events guy. You go ahead and they bring this system in. What does the audiovisual person on site there need to know? What does he need to do in order to use this system?
For the AV guy, there's really two factors to think about. First is you just got to be able to plug, a mobile device, plug the audio in at the front of the room. Because typically the person that's managing CrowdMics, they have an interface where they can choose, who to speak. It's not just like 100 mics live in a room. What ends up happening is everybody downloads the app. You get to the Q&A section, and the moderator says, okay, we're going to go ahead and do a Q&A. If you want to speak, hit the blue button at the bottom of your screen. That's like raising your hand. So 100 people, you're not getting 100 requests. You'll get 10. You'll get 7. Those 7 people queue up for the presenter, and then they choose who speaks, and it just comes out of the headphone jack. So the AV guy just needs to have one line in here to his board. Typically, just throw a DI box up at the front of the room, plug in just like you're plugging a laptop, no big deal. And then because we do have texting and polling, there has been a number of cases where they said, hey, we'd love to put this up on screen, whether it's the results of the polls, maybe let's just leave the text, stream up there and let people comment. And so that's just plugging the mobile device into the video switcher. You do have to have obviously some kind of a switching system, and you're good to go. That's really all you need to know. Then from there, we've obviously interfaced with a lot of AV guys. I'm one myself. When you're back on the board managing CrowdMics, you're basically looking at one channel, right? Here's my CrowdMics channel. And, because we are talking about using a bunch of different types of microphones, this is an iPhone 6 Plus. It's got its own profile, the mic does. It's got 3 mics. That's going to sound different than a Samsung S5, than an HTC One. And so the AV guy does have a little bit of work to do. If anything, kind of, normalizing the signal to some degree. They don't do a lot of EQing on the fly, but kind of just making sure it all sounds pretty good overall. So that's what your AV guy's thinking. I've got this input. I've got to tweak a little bit, but for the most part, I'm going to be okay. And we try to do a good job on the software to normalize it. We're getting better. There's more we can do with some DSP, some processing and stuff.
So you have in your built-in DSP, do you have some sort of a compression algorithm that would level that out to some degree?
We do, and it does a pretty good job. But honestly, we need to do a better job even of that. You get on an iPhone 4 versus a Samsung S5, and even just the gain is a little bit different. It's not horribly different, but it's certainly there's a little bit there you got to work with. And like any other mic, at the end of the day, it's a mic, right? So you still have the talking here, talking here, talking here. You got the proximity issue. It performs like a mic.
Okay, cool. One thing that you said earlier that got my attention was the fear of death, fear of public speaking.
Right.
But something that I got from watching your videos today is it's really empowering to give everybody a microphone. It's really empowering to give the meek and mild person in the back of the room the ability to just pull this phone out of their pocket and talk versus get up and walk down an aisle. That they don't have to face that kind of fear, the trepidation of dealing with that. They can actually let their voice be heard. So, how empowering is this app versus traditional methods of communication?
We are finding, our clients are telling us, and this is an unofficial number, right? It's just qualitatively, but that they're seeing at least a 4x boost in audience engagement. That means that in the same meeting from one month to another, they start using CrowdMics. Even their first experience with CrowdMics, they're seeing 4 times the interaction. Whereas they would have 10 questions, they have 40. Whereas they would have 3 people get up on the microphone, they're getting 10, 12 people. And so it truly is a simple tool, and you guys have seen, if you've seen the app, if you saw the review, it's a dead simple app. There's not a lot going on there by design, right? But when you let people use their own device, it's a tool where they can either talk or text or just even respond to a simple poll. It has been quite electrifying for the audience. They truly feel, even if their question isn't answered, even if they just lob in their text comment, they feel like, hey, you know what? At least I had a shot, right? At least I had the ability to communicate. And that's where it's really changing meetings. We have a couple clients who are like, Tim, the meeting is we're changing the way we do the meeting because we now know that everybody has a way to interact. So we kind of changed the format. We're gearing way more toward crowd interaction and letting the audience truly be a part versus the park and bark. That's how we see this changing things, right?
Park and bark.
Park and bark. Yeah, use that one from now on. That's a new one for you.
So this is really going to change quarterly investor meetings.
That is the idea. Maybe for the worse. I don't know, right? Maybe it's not a good thing. But all
I'll
good.
tell you what, I could definitely see that though. I mean, half the time I imagine, the people are either like, I'm not going to walk over to that mic over there, but they probably have questions
That's
and,
right.
and just waiting for a person, to get over there, it's just not. But if you actually have that in front of you, I could see where people would say, you know what, yeah, I'm going to go ahead
I'll
and
lob it in.
ask this. Yeah.
It's just so much. If anything, it's just much more efficient, right? At the end of the day, instead of physically running, even if you had a mic runner that's running around the room, two of them, three of them, it doesn't matter. You can't outrun light
Yeah.
speed, right? As fast as I can tap your name, people are talking, and so the efficiency gain is part of how we see such a boost in interaction. Whereas you only had time for 3 questions, you now can do 6 because it's just that much faster. We think that there's 10% of people in a room that will talk. Give them a mic, don't give them a mic, they don't care. They'll stand up and just yell at whatever. Then there's 10% of the people who you could put a gun to their head and they're not going to say anything. It's the 80% in the middle that is the opportunity, just like you were saying, Mike. That's the opportunity where people can say, you know what, I have something to say. What the heck? I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to throw a text in there. I'm going to say something, and they've really responded well.
Tim, I've already thought of a dozen ways that I could sell this to a potential client. How do
I love it.
how do I get in on the action selling this to a client and getting my residual?
Yeah, that's the idea, right? We see a real opportunity for for production companies, AV guys, to just say, look, let me resell this sucker, right? Let me present it to my clients, see what they think, and resell. So basically, we have a program. We're just rolling it out. It's certainly in its infancy, but the concept is introduce CrowdMics to your clients, work with us. We cut you in on the action, and everybody has a good time. We especially obviously at this stage, it's incredibly important that our clients, your clients, have a really awesome experience. And so, if you were to jump on our website at any time of day or night, you're going to see a little thing pop up in the corner. You probably saw this, Christian, I'm guessing.
I did.
And it's a little picture of me, and it's like, hey, do you want to chat? And people are like, oh, whatever, that's some call center. That goes to me. That literally rings on my phone. We really want people to have a good experience, and that's how we take care of our people. So any AV production guys who have any interest, the first step is just introduce it to your client. Client gets hooked. Yeah, this sounds interesting. Come to us. Let's work together. Let's do the first event. Let's get them excited. And then from there, of course, it's just a residual license. People buy licenses from CrowdMics either monthly or just a one-off event. And the AV company simply gets to share in the profits.
What's your current pricing structure on that?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because actually when we refresh our website, that structure will change a little bit, trying to make it a little more straightforward. So really the pricing is, it's like, how do you price this thing? Or not even how you price it, how do you judge what size of license? It's like, all right, if I have up to 50 people, 100 people, well, is that many going to, people start thinking too much about the number of people. And so we're trying to kind of get away from that to some degree. So really at the end of the day, CrowdMics is free to test it out. If you have a group of up to, this is all not on the website right now, by the way, but by the time this comes out, it should be, up to 100 people, $250 per month. So either you can just keep rolling it if you do a bunch of events, $250 a month, you can do 1 million events with that one license. Or one-off event, $250, done deal, right? Then if you jump into you have a lot bigger crowd, it's a bigger setup, then it gets closer to $500-600 range to handle more like hundreds, 200, 300, 400 people in the audience. And if you're getting into really big stuff, like, hey, we've got 5,000 people, then give us a call. Let's talk about the best way to do that. Not because we can't sell it to you or that we're afraid to tell you the pricing. Not at all. It's actually incredibly reasonable. It's because if you got 5,000 people you're trying to get all connected, we just need to talk a little bit. So you'll see that pricing out here soon on the website. We also offer, obviously, especially for first-time users, to let us come out, let us send a tech. We'll work with you to make sure you have a good experience, and that's just kind of a daily rate type charge as well. We really see the opportunity in companies and groups saying, look, I'm going to use this 5-6 times a month, right? Either for events for my clients, or I am the client and I'm going to use this internally. Maybe I'm an internal meeting planner and I've got, I do 30, 40, 50 events a year. We see just the monthly recurring use of CrowdMics being very reasonable, but a great way to engage your audience at a low price.
Wow, Tim, thanks a lot for spending the time with us tonight. Is there anything that we've missed in the conversation so far?
No, you guys are good. I mean, obviously you guys get it. At the end of the day, we're simply trying to let the audience be heard. We would love nothing more than for the technology to kind of wash away, believe it or not, meaning it becomes so simple and straightforward that we stop talking about the tech and just talk about interacting, right? Just talk about the audience being able to be a part of the conversation. That's what we're trying to accomplish. We've been very fortunate to work with some awesome companies that are doing it now, and we just expect it to continue to grow. We appreciate guys like you who care about what's going on in the industry enough to talk to people, see what's going on, and see how you can plug something like this into what you do. So I really thank you for the opportunity to chat it out a little bit here. Anybody can catch us. Jump on the website. Like I said, you can chat with me any time of day or night. You can, of course, talk to me directly, tim@crowdmics.com.
It's all about communication, and that's what
Right.
The Live Life is all about, is
love it.
communicating and getting out some new ideas. And we would like to thank you for your time. We've definitely learned some stuff, and I think that the app is awesome. Your website is great. I'm sure it's even going to look better. And
That's right.
Mike, do you have anything to ask Tim before we
Yeah, I
close
don't
it up?
know, Tim. I just tell you, it's like Steve Jobs is being channeled through you. You know, I wish you the best. Please keep us posted on what you're doing there. I mean, really, if you can go ahead and get this working, top notch and get it to where it needs to be, this can really be a game changer in a lot of areas.
I appreciate that. That's generous. Thank you. I'll take that as a big compliment.
Awesome. Tim Holliday, ladies and gentlemen, from crowdmics.com. This has been a production of AV Nation for the Live Life, and we will talk to you soon.